Dawn at the Beavis Hut. It is quite beautiful. A lot of fog up amongst the trees today, so it's going to be a reasonably cool start to the morning. I had a couple of mice and rats run over me in the night, which was lovely. The others slept okay in their tents though. But it is quite a magical morning this morning with all the fog about. Everyone's about to have breakfast and pack up, and then we're off to Beedelup, our next port of call. All packed up, ready to go. Apart from sleeping in my tent, Judith, how did you sleep?
Oh, well, I slept really well because I've got a mosquito issue. And so I slept in the tent in the hut, and Glenn didn't. And Glenn had a new friend.
Several. Do you want to say what one of the friends did?
One of the friends had a pee right at Glenn's head, literally about 1 millimetre from his head.
We packed up this morning and found that the little puddle was still reasonably fresh, just behind where my pillow was. So lovely start to the morning. But this is a lovely start to the morning. Look at the fog up there. Absolutely magnificent. And we think above the fog it's actually going to be a blue sky today. So truly looking forward to a lovely walk towards Beedelup. Start my watch. What's the distance today, Judith?
I don't know, about 20 k's.
Right, so you seem to be totally across things. Let's have a look. 19 k's, they're telling us. Same sort of elevation as yesterday. About 650 metres to climb along the way, but it is a beautiful way to start the morning. Something quite magical about walking through a forest that has fog in and around it early in the morning. We still have our fingers crossed that it is going to be a blue sky when it clears, because unfortunately our first 2 days in the Karri area, not that we're in Karri area at the moment, we will be re-entering it a bit later. We didn't necessarily get the beautiful dappled light because of the fact that heavy cloud cover, and at time of course it was raining. But this is quite magical.
It never shows up really in photos.
No, but look at that, it's a moss kingdom. Have a look at that. Wow.
Magical world.
Well, certainly in a wet area because it hasn't rained a lot, but we've been walking through quite a bit of mud in the last probably 300 or 400 metres. You may be wondering, what is that I keep filming on the back of Jude's bag every time I get behind her? What is it, Judith?
So that grey bag is an old dry bag, and I use it for rubbish because it stops stuff coming out and keeps it contained, and it's easy.
Because the motto is, when we're hiking,
leave no trace.
Leave no trace. And sometimes Jude hangs that open away from our bag, so there's still some remnants of things in there, so rats sometimes can perhaps go in there and leave our bags in peace. That's one of the plans anyway. We've reached the top of that first climb, which was about 125, 130 metres. And as you've seen, it's hard to tell. We've got Fenix watches that we're wearing. And because the distance of the day, which today is about 19 or 20 kilometres, is in such a tiny space, it's hard to actually tell when you get to a climb as to how steep it's going to be and what the gradient. But I'd have to say we've both come up this one with no issue whatsoever. So even though it appears on the watch to be a very, very sharp spike, it wasn't really. The other issue is at times you can look at it and think, oh well, it might be a little bit of a rolling climb, and as was the case with one of the parts of the climbs yesterday, it almost goes up at a gradient of about 20 degrees. But that one, first one today, got through it quite easily.
I always blow into it when it's hot and it dries it out. Dry pot.
Is that another one of Jude's tech talks?
Well, it's a mini talk. It's a mini tech talk.
We're going to be a bit cheeky and we're going to head to the Karri Valley Resort for something to eat and drink. And then we're going to come back this way and enter Beedelup National Park and then continue on the Bib and go down to Beedelup Falls, which should take half an hour. They call this a swing bridge, and I think you can tell why. 5 people allowed on here at one time, and the bridge does swing. Means we're getting close. In fact, very close. Here it is right here. Beedelup. Twenty to 6, and we've been on our way just for a short period of time. A nice short sharp climb straight out of the camp. So today terrain is going to be fairly kind, only about 350, 370 metres in elevation to climb. Longish day though, about 25 kilometres to the visitor centre in Pemberton, and unfortunately today's a Sunday and they close at 1 p.m. Jude has been on the phone to them, leaving voicemail messages, asking them if they could just leave the box discreetly out the front when they knock off, because we'll be probably touch and go whether we could get there by 1. Always like to have our cup of tea and lunch along the way, but hopefully the box will be there along with our bounce bag. So not just resupplies, but our great town clothes and things like shampoo and razors and stuff like that. So fingers crossed, when we do get to the visitor centre, there'll be 2 items there addressed to Mitchell and Willett.
I now feel I'm back in the UK, because the UK has styles everywhere. Wooden ones, rock ones, ones built into the side of walls. So yes, and I still don't find them any easier because of my kneecap.
So as was the case a few days ago, we're getting the opportunity to walk through some private properties and privately owned farmland, which is very nice of the owners. Quite a fascinating start to the day. We've done about 5.5 kilometres, and the terrain, well, not so much the terrain, but the track and what's around it has changed so dramatically. We started on a gravel track leading out of the camp, then went on to a narrower track, then we went through some farmland. Straight out of the farmland we descended into what was like a little rainforest. We've just come past a very substantial dam, and now we're back on dual track, but with very, very heavy foliage either side and some mature trees overhead and plenty of bark and leaf to walk on beneath. So a very varied and attractive start to this trek into Pemberton. As I said, 5.5 k's in, and we've seen very, very mixed vegetation, different sorts of wildflowers in various clumps along the way, and in some areas very, very damp underfoot. Well, the Department of Parks and Wildlife, allied to so many volunteers along the Bibbulmun Track, do a terrific job clearing fallen trees, often
chainsawing right through the middle of them so that you can maintain the track and walk through it. But every now and then you get incredibly recent tree fall, and this is one, because if you have a look at the leaves and even the little flowers that are on there, this is incredibly fresh. So at this stage, Deepaw hasn't had an opportunity to come through here, and I said to Jude a moment ago, the only way through this is actually through this. Often they have little detours around if fallen logs are too great to be able to make your way through, but whoops, a daisy. That's exciting, Judith.
My balance isn't very good.
But that is incredibly fresh tree fall.
Wow.
All the leaves,
massive.
and as I mentioned, the little flowers and blossoms are still very much alive, and if we look up,
That's where it's from.
you can see it has snapped from that area up there. Why it snapped, I do not know. We haven't had any stormy weather or anything like that, but that is an incredible tree fall. Now I'm just going to switch this off so I can negotiate my way through the last few metres. Quite phenomenal with karri trees in particular, just how much bark is left on the ground and leaves. And there's the base of one particular tree, just the bark that has come off it. This isn't a particularly enormous karri tree, but it makes for very good walking through the forest, because with the leaves along with the bark, it actually gives a bit of springiness to the step, rather than a lot of the gravel tracks and hard tracks, even though this is gravel underneath, because so much leaf litter and bark falls on top of it, it actually makes it very, very pleasant to walk on. Well, this is the big Brook Arboretum. Now, it says here that this tree, well, this little area established in 1929, so nearly a century ago, origin United States. Now, I'm no expert in trees, but that does look like it has red wood. So I don't know if it is a sequoia or not. For one that's 100 years old, it doesn't have a very big girth on it. It is quite high. But unfortunately, unlike the Arboretum outside Beedelup, where every tree was actually had a little plaque that told you what it was. So perhaps they're redwoods. We know they're from the United States. Perhaps there's something else. We're only about 6 kilometres probably from the heart of Pemberton, and we're on the edge of Big Brook Dam at the moment. Just making our way into Pemberton. Well, when I say our way, Jude's quite a bit in front of me. I've had a bit of a struggle today, so I told her to go ahead and I'll meet her at the hotel. Pemberton itself is interesting because we're walking the Bibbulmun Track, and the Bibbulmun people, part of the Noongar Nation, actually called this land home, and still do. This is country for them. They actually know it as Wandagarup, so it does have a close connection to the Bibbulmun Track. A beautiful town. We've got tonight and tomorrow a full rest day before we then take on the short 3 days to Northcliffe. But Pemberton very much a town central to the wood industry, the timber industry and the history of Western Australia. Looking forward to 2 nights in a comfortable bed, some nice food, and more importantly, fingers crossed for me, a good sleep, something I haven't been able to put together for about the last 3 or 4 nights, so lacking a little bit of energy today as we head towards the home stretch. Unlike some of the towns and places we've stayed, it's a bit of a walk on footpaths out of Pemberton to get to the Bibbulmun. Well, as it is, we're on the track at the moment, just that it's pavement beneath our feet, but not too far away from heading back onto something more akin to what you'd see on a cross-country track, shall we say. Still asphalt, but a feeling that we're back in the forest here, and will be for the bulk of our journey down to the campsite at Warren. And it's nice to be back in this environment after a rest day, back amongst the tall timber of the southwest of the state. Whilst this still may not be a traditional forest track, this is actually the most stunning collection of karri trees that we have seen so far in our journey around the Pemberton area. Absolutely stunning, mature trees shedding their bark, going back to that familiar light colour for which the karri is renowned. This is truly spectacular. Well, Jude and I have just had dinner. The sun is still well and truly up, but for me in particular, it's not going to be a late night. Beautiful walk today, absolutely stunning, starting out of Pemberton and walking towards the Gloucester tree, which, as we found, unusually, well, unusually for me, you're not actually able to climb it at the moment. I don't know, it might have just been because it was a wet day today and they're taking precautions, because you're only climbing on very narrow rods, steel rods, which I guess when they get slippery could be a little bit precarious when you're trying to go up 153 of them and 53 metres in the air. Tough day for me personally, inside the last 2 kilometres, really felt it with the lack of sleep. Going to take a couple of sleeping tablets tonight. Already got the top bunk, as I normally have, top bunk on the right as you look at the hut. That's my position if I can get there first, and I did again today. So hopefully we'll get a good night's sleep. But this hut that we're in at the moment, the hut of Warren, that overlooks the Warren River, I reckon it's up there with Tom Road hut that we stayed at a little over a week ago. But this one here is stunning. Fingers crossed tomorrow morning, given that there is a big valley and a river at the base of it, we might even have some fog between the trunks of these magnificent karri trees. But a beautiful day today, great day for walking, nice and cool, a little bit humid at times in the forest, but some spectacular karri trees to be able to view today. And at the moment the sun is shining down on the valley. We'll make the most of it before we turn in for an early night.